Hey guys, I'm so sorry I'm late. I was going to be right on time, and then a good friend of mine from the military called, and they had some urgent news. So it was better to for me to honor that and stay on that phone call with her and catch up with her. So I am hopping on here a little late, but that's okay because I have an awesome topic to talk about today. I'm going to be inviting some of y'all on here. See if I can get some people to join me on this lovely Monday. We've been driving all day, so little tired. I don't know why. Drive days are just kind of exhausting. It's not like we drove for a long time today either. It's just, you know what it is? It's because I almost always am driving the RV. It's not, Brad doesn't really drive the RV too often. It's only because I'm a much better driver than him. So, it's very intense to drive a 35-foot RV. You have to be very vigilant. You can't just kind of, you know how like when you're driving, you just kind of zone out and you're just, cruising, and it is not like that in an RV. So it is, you have to be very, very, very aware of what's going on, because you can't stop quickly. It's a very large vehicle. You could cause a lot of damage. So, yeah, so it's just exhausting. So I'm a little exhausted, but I've got a great topic. I thought about this when I was driving too, because I don't think I've ever actually really talked about this, and it comes up like every single time I work with a client. Every time. I mean, without fail. So, maybe this applies to you, maybe it doesn't. Most likely it has applied to at some point in time in your life, so you can relate. But, maybe this will be helpful. If not, maybe you have somebody like your spouse or your partner that struggles with this, and you can show them this video and, kind of give them a little encouragement, because this isn't by any means, hey Cliff, this isn't by any means, kind of, I guess you could take it as, admonishment, but it's really not. This is coming from a place of truth, and, with Fireteam Whiskey, we're always going to give you the truth. We don't sugarcoat things, it is what it is. And here's the issue, guys. Food is not responsible for your emotional state. Let me say it again. Let it sink in. Food is not responsible for your emotional state. So, can I get a hallelujah? So now let's break that down. I just hear this over and over and over again, and the clients that I help with, personal training and through Fireteam Whiskey and my eating psychology work and nutritional mental health work. Yes, Cliff says he agrees. So let's take a step back. Let's just understand that it's not really our fault that this has happened within us, especially as Americans, but I think all over the world, they almost every part of the world would agree with this. You have been raised from a very young age, and you have been conditioned to understand that food equals good feeling emotions, right? So even from a young age, maybe you had parents who bribed you. I know mine did. Maybe you had parents who bribed you with food or drink or ice cream or candy, to get you to do a certain thing, right? Or maybe there was a punishment. You were punished. You didn't get dessert if you didn't eat all your dinner, right? So we've been conditioned from a very young age that there are a lot of strong emotions surrounding food. Hey Charlie, thanks for joining us. So, family gatherings, if we're a very young age, birthdays, you get a big cake. Everything's so delicious. You get what you want to eat. Social gatherings, your family gatherings. We have a lot of positive emotional associations with food from a very young age. And this continues on throughout our life. And what happens is we associate food with making us feel good, right? And of course it does, right? And especially with the highly processed foods that are chemically designed to basically make your brain light up like a Christmas tree and have like a drug-like response. So we've been manipulated by, these food companies who have engineered their foods to have an even greater emotional response in our brains when we consume them, right? And, and the marketing and advertising, right, to children for the kids' meals. And, we're all set up from a very young age to associate these foods with wonderful, good feeling emotions, right? And the problem is, of course, we associate that and we keep that as a coping mechanism. So how I describe it as a therapist is we all have coping skills, right? We have a toolbox and we learn coping skills for emotions throughout our life. And we add coping skills to our box. Now, not all of them are great coping skills, but it's still something that helps us with these emotions. So some people develop poor coping skills, maybe self-destructive coping skills. Maybe they have anger outbursts, or they become an alcoholic or abuse drugs, right? Maybe they're just, very violent when they get into conflict or get stressed out. Or maybe people on the other side of things, get very depressed and negative and, spend days in bed and can't function, right? So those are all coping skills for emotions. And we develop some good ones and we develop some bad ones, right? And we use those every time we encounter strong emotions. Food goes into this box. Every single one of us have done this. We have used food to manage our emotions. I can certainly say many, many times in my life, I've had a bad day or a bad encounter, and all I wanted to do was just have something satisfying. You kind of convince yourself, well, I deserve this. I've had a bad day, right? I'm going to go through that fast food on the way home and get that big, milkshake, that I know I shouldn't be eating, but I deserve it because I'm having a bad day, right? So here's the truth bomb that I use when I work with my eating psychology clients, my coaching clients, is food is not responsible for your emotional state. Food is fuel. End of sentence. It's like food is putting gas in your car. You don't get emotional when you put gas in your car. I mean, unless you have crazy high gas prices. Sometimes, like in California, I'm like, holy shit. Like the gas prices are insane. That is an emotional reaction. But, I digress. When you put gas in your car, you just know you need to put gas in your car. It's time to put gas in your car, right? It's time to change your oil. It's not an emotional process. It's giving your car what it needs to keep going, right? That's what food is. It's giving your vehicle what it needs to keep going. Did I mention emotions in any of that? No. So food should be put in the category of it is just fuel. You can either have good fuel or bad fuel, but it is not responsible for our emotions and our emotional state. And if we have a day or making us feel better, right? So I think once people are able to make that transition and remove food from the toolbox of coping skills, just completely remove it. It is no longer a tool that we turn to when we're experiencing strong emotions. Sure, we can enjoy things on occasion, but it's not something we deserve. It's not something that we, we rely on. It's not something that we make excuses for because we had a bad day or we're going through a stressful time in our life. It's fuel. Gas in your gas tank is not an emotional process. So once we kind of accept that and have that and remove food from our coping skills, we need to make sure we have some coping skills that help us with our emotions. Because if you don't have anything in that toolbox, then when you experience a negative emotion or a strong emotion, you open that toolbox and you got nothing, right? So you need to have something to deal with strong emotions, because guess what? That's life. Crappy things are going to happen. We're going to have bad days. We're going to have a flat tire. We're going to have a fight with our spouses. We're going to be mad at our mama. Whatever it is, these things are going to happen. So why wouldn't we kind of set ourselves up for success and having some really good coping skills, and lots of them in our toolbox, so we don't set ourselves up for failure by relying on food in order to be responsible for our emotional states. So this is how you break the chain of addiction, by the way, guys, because it isn't addiction. It is a chemical addiction. It is an emotional addiction. When we admit to ourselves that, yes, I have turned to alcohol, I have turned to food because I was in a funky state, that's an addiction. So we have to accept that's just what has developed because of the fact that we have hyperpalatable foods that have been chemically designed to make us feel that drug-like state. So with that awareness, just like any other addict, right? Any other addict is always an addict. When you're an alcoholic, you don't ever say, I'm an ex-alcoholic. No. You are an alcoholic. Forever and ever, amen. That's it. So you always are vigilant about dealing with that addiction on a daily basis. It is a process, right? It's an ongoing, until the day I die process of fighting this addiction and making sure we don't dive back into using that drug of choice again for any reason whatsoever, right? So we should look at food in the same way. And unfortunately, because we can't go without food, right? It's the only addiction. Like, you don't tell a crack addict, well, just do a little crack. Everything in moderation, right? No, that's silly. You don't tell an alcoholic, well, just have a little bit of alcohol. No, because you just don't have the capacity to do it. You're an addict. We are addicts. If you have ever had processed food in your life and enjoyed it, we're an addict. All of us are. So we all need to start acting like addicts and go, you know what? I know I kind of lose control when I have ice cream in the house. That's my thing. That's my trigger. I cannot have ice cream in the house. I have no control. I will take a spoonful and then go back a few minutes later, take another spoonful. Before I know it, the damn thing is empty. It is an addiction, right? So I need to treat it like I'm an addict, which is what I do. So it's something that is not responsible for my emotional state. If I'm having a bad day, I intentionally eat very, very well and do not do the treats, because I don't want to train my brain to go, oh, this food will make me feel all better. Look how good you feel now since you had that treat. No, I don't want my train my brain to rely on that anymore, right? Been there, done that. It made me super sick. It made me overweight. It made me unhealthy. Past that now. So when I do have a treat, and it's seldom, it is just, in celebration, maybe at somebody's birthday. Brad and I just recently had our anniversary. So something like that. But it's not like if I'm just having a bad day, or if I got in an argument with, someone, or I just, stub my toe, then I turn right to the treats. Because then you're training your brain to rely on that drug. So treat food like it is. It's fuel. It is not responsible. It is gas to put in the tank. It is not an emotional process. It's not responsible for your emotional state. And if you're relying on it for that, then you need to remove that from your coping skill toolbox, replace it with something else that works, right? You have to find things that everybody's different. Everybody finds different coping skills that work for them. I love to work out. I love a good hard workout. So that's one of my coping skills. So we all, obviously some people are like, oh, hell no, that's the last thing I want to do is work out when I'm feeling bad. I just want to like sit on the TV and veg, right? Okay, then that's what you do. But you don't stuff your mouth while you're doing it, because then you're just training your brain to rely on food addictively as that's responsible for your emotional state. So that's just, I don't sugarcoat it. It's an addiction. We're all addicted. We've all been programmed to turn to food to make us feel good. So it is about breaking that addiction. So once you are free of that, it's wonderful, because then you can have a treat on occasion and not go out of control and not feel guilty and not feel like you're just ending up in a spiral and you have one treat and it turns into 2 weeks of just shitty eating. So that's addictive behavior, right? Once you free yourself from that addiction, you get some time and some process and some good coping skills under your belt, then you can return back to maybe on occasion have a good treat, not in response of a bad day, but for a special occasion. See how you feel. Make sure it doesn't end up making you spiral. For me, if I have a treat, I crave it for a couple of days. Now, I'm able to stay on track, right? But that's because I've trained myself and I've been doing this long enough where I've established those good habits and that discipline, right? If you're first starting off, probably the best thing to do is to just cold turkey for a long time. So you can just break that connection. And then later we can revisit, adding a treat now and then back in. But if you know you have no control, then it's cold turkey. That's what it needs to be. Treat it like an addiction. All right, guys. Well, hopefully this was helpful. Have a fantastic Monday. And I'm going to get to my dinner. I'm going to go start cooking our dinner. We're here in the Cascades. It's beautiful. It's like 65 degrees out. It's amazing. And we'll see you soon.